All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, Ian Rapoport of the NFL Network did a little segment last night giving some insight, giving some information on where the contracts stand, or I should say contract extensions stand, right now with the Jets, Sauce Gardner, and a little bit too of Garrett Wilson. But basically, Rapoport said that it shouldn't really be all that difficult to get this done. He said he wouldn't be surprised if Sauce becomes the highest paid corner, or, if not, it's probably going to be looking pretty similar to Derek Stingley's extension, which was a 3-year, $90 million deal, which included $89 million guaranteed. So a ton of guaranteed money here, plus a lot at the top. And, of course, from an annual basis. So, if that's what it's going to look like, I got to be honest, I think that's pretty fair, right? With the cap going up, with it projecting into the future going up and up and up. Let's get it done, right? We, of course, have this season. We have the 5th-year option. I think, just putting myself in the shoes of, like, my future self here, if we wake up a day, 2 days, 3 days from now with the notification of, okay, the New York Jets are signing Sauce Gardner, 3 years, 91 mil, 3 years, 92 million, $90 million guaranteed. Yeah, of course, it's a lot of money. But if we take a look at what these corners are getting paid, that's the reality, right? This is the real world. If you have a guy like this and it's time to give them a contract extension, it's probably going to look pretty similar to this. And that's exactly what Rapoport was talking about. Now, in regards to Garrett Wilson, Rapoport said that he would actually not be surprised if they're done right around the same time. Now, Garrett is in a little bit of a different boat compared to Gardner, right? When you're thinking about Gardner, it's interesting, right? Because obviously 2 great young players, 2 rookies of the year, but if you look at their career paths so far, Sauce Gardner through the first 2 years, a lot of people anointed him as the number 1, the best corner in the National Football League. Whereas with Garrett Wilson, no one has talked about him like, oh, he's the best wide receiver in football. He's a top 3 receiver in football. He's a top 5 receiver in football. Like, he hasn't reached that peak yet. And I do feel like wide receiver, you have so much competition. Like, you got to knock off Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, all these different guys to get to, the summit of being the best wide receiver in football. Garrett hasn't reached that point. Garrett hasn't reached that point yet. But here's why it's really interesting, because when you take a look at Gardner, yes, he's performed like the best corner in football, but there's been a bit of a dip last season. Now, of course, we can point the blame wherever, but ultimately there were many, many moments where we were taking a look at Gardner saying, man, you got to have that tackle. You got to turn your head around. You got to not be so physical with the football in the air. Run support question marks. There were a lot of moments in games last season where I just remember fans being, really upset, like really irritated at what we were, what we were seeing with Gardner. Whereas with Garrett, you don't have that number 1, number 2, number 3 wide receiver production, but you never really saw Garrett, no matter the circumstances, and you kind of feel like Garrett has had it harder because it's, his position is reliant off of having effective quarterback play, and the offensive line is a factor, the play call is a factor, the coaching staff's a factor, having weapons around Garrett is a factor, but it doesn't really matter. With Garrett Wilson, his numbers are there. 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards, right? Always snags a bunch of catches. We know what he can do when it comes to route running, separation, vertical, tapping his feet in bounds, making plays on the sidelines. Garrett can play, man. Garrett can really, really play. And I think that's my favorite thing about his game. No matter the dysfunction around him, he's been able to make it work. He's been able to go out there and have really, by NFL standards here, really effective seasons. So you don't really have those maybe head-scratching moments, those moments where you're like, what was that? Yeah, and it's not to say that Garrett has never made a negative play before. He's never had a drop. But, I'm just very, very impressed with Garrett's ability to continue to produce while everything around him is just in question. Hackett, Zach for all those years. Like, there was just many, many interchangeable parts around Garrett, and doesn't matter. He's going to go out there and do what he does. So here's a list of the highest paid wide receivers in football. Obviously, we have Jamar Chase at 1, Justin Jefferson at 2, CeeDee Lamb at spot number 3. But what's interesting about those 3 guys, right? Obviously, humongous deals in total value, average per season, and total guaranteed. But if you go down to DK Metcalf, who just signed his new deal, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, of course. If you're looking at the total guaranteed, there is a humongous drop from 100 million at CeeDee Lamb down to the next guy at DK Metcalf. That's a $20 million drop. I do think that Garrett will probably get a deal similar to this kind of second group here. I don't see him exceeding CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, or even maybe DK Metcalf to a certain degree, but I'm thinking right around that AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill range, where it's like, hey, he's probably going to get $100 million. He could very well get $30 million per season, and the guaranteed is kind of up in the air. But just for context, that's what we're looking at right now for highest paid wide receivers when we're trying to project a G5 type of contract. It's going to look something similar to this. I know we talked about Derek Stingley before, but just for context, let's just put up the highest paid corners. Again, Derek Stingley at 24 years old, $90 million total value. J.C. Horn, on the other hand, got $100 million in total value, but let's see, $19 million less in the total guarantees. And also, too, for what it's worth, the Jets have $36 million in cap space right now. They also have $58 million in cap space next year. This is obviously before cuts and everything like that. So we're sitting in a pretty good position to get these deals done. I feel like at this point, the coaching staff, if you wanted to maybe play devil's advocate or argue against, giving these guys an extension when Glenn and co first took over, that's fine, because you could have said, well, they don't know how they work. They haven't seen them in practice. They haven't seen them in meeting rooms. They haven't really had that one-on-one time. Now they have. Voluntary OTAs are over. Both of them showed up. They're saying they're doing all the right things. Mandatory minicamp has came and went. They should have a pretty good idea right now based off of the tape, based off of, the guys that were here previously, based off of their experiences working with them. I think the answer should be pretty clear on whether or not they should be here for the long term. And the answer is, yeah, both of these guys should be Jets for life, or at least, re-upped on new 4-5 year contracts. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. And as always, go Jets.